But we had an investigation in Germantown, and what happened was it's out there if you want to find it, so we can actually say some shit about it.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
I watched it
on
a couple
YouTube.
months ago.
So we did an investigation in Germantown where this woman contacted us. She was experiencing some things in the house that she thought was associated with a dead body that was found in the woods in the back of her house. We did the investigation. I'm going to try to make this kind of short because this was really like the nail in the coffin.
You can watch it on. You can literally watch it on YouTube.
Right.
We were on.
Right.
My Ghost Story.
My Ghost Story. Right.
Yeah.
So we did the investigation. We had the first time we had some pretty good results. I mean, like one of the things
we did.
One of the things that we pride ourselves in is there was groups out there and some people that we worked with too that would use like these newfangled devices like the Ghost Box, right?
Yeah.
Where it scans the channels or whatever, and you hear like different, rapidly succession, and all of a sudden you might hear like some words being formed or whatever. REM pods were like a new thing back then, and blah blah blah. We had the basics. I think the most we went out of our way for was when we did Ohio State Reformatory. We bought like Army grade IR lamps. Like I spent a lot of money on that shit because that place was huge and I wanted that place lit at night. You know what I'm saying? In the dark. So, but we didn't do like a lot of the newfangled stuff. What we prided ourselves in was, I wouldn't say it was like really taunting, but it kind of was. There's this thing in ghost hunting where they do something called using trigger objects. And you would try to get a response out of an entity by using an object that might trigger it to respond. So like say like this was Grandpa's favorite drinking glass, and it's like, and sometimes this drinking glass, the client might say like, oh, I put it here one night and the next night it was back here or something like that. So you use a trigger object like, Grandpa, so I heard you like to drink whiskey from this glass, can you make it move? Something like that, right? But we didn't really pride ourselves so much in trigger objects as trigger recreations, where we would try to trigger an entity based upon experiences that it had in life. So there was this rumor that the body that was found in the woods was somebody that had kidnapped some women up north in Wisconsin, bound them in his basement. He didn't kill them. He might have raped them, maybe.
I think, yeah.
But
there's some sexual proclivities that he partaked in.
He ended up being on the run. He was wanted on the run. And they say that he made his way down to Germantown because he had a sister or something that lived down there, right? But he didn't make it out of the woods because some hunters thought he was an animal and shot him.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I thought he committed suicide.
Oh, he committed suicide. He committed suicide. They thought it was a hunter that committed suicide. That's where I'm getting that from. They thought that maybe this guy was originally, they didn't know anything yet, that the body that they found was not this guy.
I mean, when we first investigated Germantown, there was still police tape because there was still an investigation going on.
Right. So, but their initial findings were it was a hunter because it was a shotgun and he committed suicide in the woods.
Right.
Okay. However, there happened to be a guy missing from up north who was wanted, who was last seen in Germantown, and all of a sudden in Germantown, the trail went cold. So my intention during the investigation was to see not only if the spirit of this person in the woods was haunting this house, but was it just a hunter? Or was it this guy that was wanted for kidnapping and raping women who possibly then committed suicide in Germantown because he had no place else to go? Maybe he couldn't get hold of his sister. Maybe his sister wasn't going to help him. Who knows, right? So we did an experiment where I tried to kidnap one of our investigators.
Right.
And I started talking to her.
This was the second time we were there, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the place was empty.
Yeah. The first time there was some other stuff that happened. I mean, my shorts got tugged at.
There's a lot.
Voices.
We heard voices.
Right.
There's a lot to talk about.
So we had to go back. And the reason why we did go back the second time is because now the house was empty too. Mm-hmm. The person that lived there moved out. Like she wasn't having any of that shit. after we told her, yes, your place is haunted. So we knew that it was somehow tied to the body that was in the woods, but we weren't sure exactly just yet who it was. So we did this experiment where we pretended to kidnap one of our investigators, and we talked to her like she was complete human trash and that we were going to hurt her and blah blah blah. And we were getting, all of a sudden we were hearing like footsteps above our head, and we were getting like chills, and we were taking photographs. And there's a photograph, and it's floating online on different websites. I think even now it's still what's the word I'm looking for? Archived, maybe something like that on some other websites. Yeah. Of like boy, it's like a shadow, right? But the shadow's on the floor, and the shadow starts out on the floor in one picture, and like I said, we're snap, 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 snap. In the second picture, it's receding back, and in the third picture, it's like completely gone, right? Yeah, right. So, so basically, we're doing that, right? And what happens is, like, we're getting so much more stuff out of this. It's like almost amazing that I come to the conclusion that only talking to this guy, like he is like the kidnapping rapist who was wanted from up north, like talking to him like that and getting those reactions and recreating stuff that he would do in his life, it led me to believe like that was him. No doubt about it. That was the guy that shot, not some random hunter.
Because after that whole thing, besides for the noises that we were hearing around us, we had no idea was what. Because you had Josh on the other end of the room taking pictures. I was on the other end of the room taking pictures.
And I was up against the wall. It was like a triangle.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys went to go take a smoke break, and I was sitting there just kind of going through my pictures, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is this?
Right.
And so I showed everybody exactly what I had captured, and immediately, because we believe in ourselves that much, we went back downstairs and tried to recreate that exact same thing, and we couldn't.
Right.
No matter what we did.
Yeah.
We could, because it almost
if you did immediate evidence review, like during a break, and you found something during immediate evidence review, like usually it's just photographs. EVP is not so much.
Yeah, you can't.
Video, not so much. But if you're going over photographs and you capture something, you immediately need to recreate that shit.
Because it seemed like there was a light source coming from behind me,
but there wasn't.
But of course, there's no light source because it's completely pitch black.
The only light source was from your flash.
From my flash.
That should have been illuminating everything in front of you.
Yes.
Not.
So it was like something was standing behind me and had illuminated
its own light
onto
source
the floor and onto the walls and shit.
Right. Right. That was messed up. Like, it's one thing to capture like a shadow figure or something like that, but to have a shadow have its own shadow with somehow its own light source was like, what the fuck? Like, how? Like, I still don't even know how that happens.
I still cannot. Like I said, up front, I was going into this completely skeptical. I'm still skeptical. There's still, and just my train of thought is if I can't explain it, maybe somebody else can explain it.
Right.
But it's just one of those things where I'm just like, how the hell does this happen? How does this happen, man?
Yeah, so at that point, I've been doing this for like 4 years, leading up to the second time we did the Germantown investigation. And I've had a number of things happen to me prior to that, or in that first 4 years. But there was something about this investigation that was like, only because we were almost doing our own unsolved mysteries thing, where it's like, can we identify the body in the woods before DNA evidence can, right? And so, My Ghost Story put out, they were on A&E, I believe. They put out like a call on one of their shows, like, oh, do you have a ghost story? Send us a video or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I did that. And it was just me sitting in front of a camera talking about what we had just done in 2 investigations. And then sure as shit, they call back and they're like, yeah, we want to air your story on our show.
Yeah.
So me and the client, all right, man,
You're just fucking slacking, man.
I don't know what's happening, man.
Carbonated as shit.
So me and the client flew out to California to do the interview part of it. Now, this is where this started to put the nail in the coffin for me as far as being in this industry, if you want to call it that. I was always skeptical about what happens on TV. Only because being a ghost hunter or a paranormal investigator, you start hearing things from the inside about what happens.
Well, we were talking off before we even started recording this about ghost hunters and those shows and stuff like that. And I've never been into any of those shows. Reality TV is still garbage to me. I watched Lego Masters, and even watching Lego Masters, I was like, God, this sucks, but I can't stop watching it. Because once you hear the stories, you see beyond the veil of what is actually happening.
Right. Well, and the thing is now you're in this industry, and you start hearing by word of mouth through people that know people that know people.
And because you're doing it, you as a team, we were trying to just be as pure as we can, and as transparent as we could.
We weren't in this for any kind of fame. We weren't in this for any kind of.
We didn't make a fucking
dime off of this. Not even a fucking penny. You know, all the equipment we bought was out of pocket. All the gas that we expensed was out of pocket. All the hotels we stayed in was out of pocket. No clients ever paid us. We never got paid.
Nothing.
To be on a TV show, I got the flight out to California and $100, and then $100 bought me in and out for 3 days. In and out. I got these tattoos, but I'd love to come work for you guys sometime. Maybe you could just, or maybe at least sponsor my video.
Good luck. In and Out's been closed for like 3 months now.
I'll see you guys in Colorado Springs in 2021. So anyway, yeah, I had In and Out by LAX like for the 2 or 3 days that I was out there. But that was it. Like that.
It was all like
the most money I made was on a flight and $100 in the almost 6.5 years that I did this. And he never saw any of that. It was me and the client that got that money for that investigation. So you hear shit, and you hear like about like certain episodes of certain things that were on TV where it's like we're like, oh, that person totally lied about something, or and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not in this to be on TV. If anything happens, it's going to be completely honest, completely truthful, right? But unfortunately, I will say this, and I'll say this only because the show's not even on anymore. There was a couple things that happened.
You're going to break non-disclosure agreements?
I think the non-disclosure agreement is null and void because the show is no longer being produced. And I've told people this that I've worked with closely. Yeah. So they collected our evidence. Our evidence wasn't also good enough. So when the episode aired, they were putting in things that weren't ours. They also took some things that the client had in her possession that to us were not paranormal at all.
Yeah.
But they put them on the show and made them look like they were paranormal, which was embarrassing for me. Now, granted, the show doesn't tell you you're in a group. The show basically says, here's a person that's having a paranormal problem, and they call a friend. And the friend's the person that's being interviewed, okay?
Yeah.
It's not, this is Paul from this group in this location, okay? That's not, they advertise that. They don't advertise your group. They don't tell you where you're from. But still, for me as a person, that was embarrassing. And then during the interview, when they would ask me, they prepped me with questions beforehand. And I would answer the questions truthfully. And I would answer the questions however my personality would be while answering those questions. And if they didn't like the response, they would coach me on how to respond.
And even then,
so they'd be like, "So did that scare you?" Like, no. I mean, I do this professionally. This shit doesn't scare me.
How many times?
They'd be like, "No, it scares you." You're gonna be like, "And that
really shook me up."
Really shook me up.
That's your line.
And that's in the episode. And they played that twice. I only said it once, and they put it in there twice, and it never shook me up. Nothing
shook you up.
Nothing after that. nothing really shook me. Even like when I'm seeing, having fucking things pass through
That
me,
is your line. I
like
remember
it's
watching it,
creepy
like,
and shit.
Damn,
but
how many things shook you up, man?
nothing shakes me up. So
they just chop and screw the entire interview.
they had shit in
fit
there
their
that
narrative.
wasn't ours. They had shit in there that wasn't ours. That was the client's. That was embarrassing to put on there as actual evidence. It was shapes of human shadows that she took pictures of in like some flooding waters. And I'm like thinking to myself, no, they're shadows from the trees in the water. They're not like these creatures that she thought they were, that the TV show made them out to be. And then they're using audio evidence that wasn't ours. And then they made me say things that weren't true for dramatic purposes. Now, that was just the interview part. Then they sent out a cameraman, one guy, to Germantown. And at this point, somebody else owned the house.
Yes. He was flipping it.
And he was flipping it. So he wasn't living there. It was partially empty. What are we at? Maybe like 7 or 8 total? 7, because you had one and I didn't. I'll count at the end. I'll put it on the screen.
Gotcha.
So,
Bing. Corner.
or maybe as they come along. Burp
Drink
1.
counter.
Burp 1, burp 2. So, they had us do the recreation. And, and the other thing that we profited from is he took us out for Subway.
I never got a fucking Subway sandwich.
We went out to Subway at fucking Walmart.
Did we?
Yes. Don't you remember that?
Fuck Jared.
Anyway. So we did the recreation, which was interesting actually to try to do. Like we had to recreate some
So when my acting career started.
Oh man.
My famous.
Your yeah, right, yeah. We did a lot of that. Both of us did.
People ask me. People come up to me on the street like, "Do the thing." I'm like, yeah. People stop me all the time.
Yeah, and I was like,
yeah, that's it. That's it.
So we had to like recreate EMF meters going off and wind chimes spinning on their own, and then they would work in the audio. And in order to get the whole thing with I was wearing shorts, cargo shorts. In order to get the whole cargo shorts moving, like somebody was pulling on, like an entity was pulling on them, I basically had to pull at the very top, and then they would film from below my hand so it looked like it was moving. And I'd be like, "Oh my god, somebody just tugged my shorts," or whatever, So, so that part of it was actually kind of fun. Doing the recreation part
it was interesting.
It was different. But when that show aired and I saw the fabrications and the lies, I was already like at my wit's end, and I'll tell you why. I was already at my wit's end with ghost hunting, and that really did it for me. I was like, I wanted
Did
to
it
tell
shake you up?
It shook me up. It really shook me up.
That's your line. See, my thing was the whole looking at the camera. That's your shit.
Yeah, so I was like, that's it. Like, I wanted to tell my story, and my story it was mostly true, but it had a lot of asterisks to it, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I didn't want to be a part of that industry anymore with all the drama and now the lies, and I could have probably just said like, no, I won't say that during the interview. I would have, no, that's not true, I won't say that, but I almost felt like something, like I signed an agreement, and whatever they told me to do, I had to do.
Yeah, you were fucked.
So
hands were tied.
But on top of that, now I already had, and we had some stuff lined up.
But we did Ohio State after that.
We did Ohio State after the filming,
yes,
but before the episode aired.
Right.
Ohio State was really where I got all my answers, where I was satisfied with my career in hunting ghosts.
I wasn't. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Long story short, so before we booked Ohio State. It was just for ourselves overnight. And we had done the Villisca Axe Murder House. We had done what was that one in Louisville called?
Oh,
The insane asylum type
it
of.
wasn't an insane asylum.
It was where they took the TB patients.
Right.
Waverly Hills.
Waverly Hills, man.
With the body shoot.
Fucking Waverly Hills.
Yeah. So we had done some stuff, and some of that stuff had minor results, but Ohio State was not only riddled with problems to begin with, but there was also a lot of stuff that eventually, once we got going, was like, holy shit. And even before we got going,
We were so underprepared.
we invested in like state-of-the-art DVR system, and like I said before, these like military-grade IR lamps. They were like huge box IR lamps that we put in the different wings of the penitentiary. It was a huge undertaking, and we had our core group, and then we had two like winners of
Guests.
the contest.
Yeah.
And we provided them with their own like little equipment, like flashlight and a basic EMF K2 meter or something like that, and let them go to town. But it was embarrassing because like we were having problems with the DVR system. Some cameras weren't working, some IR lamps weren't working, and I was trying to like run back and forth. And this place is fucking massive. I lost 30 pounds just to do that investigation. I lost 30 pounds because there was no way at 250 pounds that I was going to be able to do it. So I dropped down to 220 just for this investigation. Because you're talking this massive place like that, like the biggest prison in the northern hemisphere, maybe, or something. And then it was like 5 stories tall on top of that. And it's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this unless I drop some weight. So I did.
We were so unprepared for that shit.
Oh
No matter how prepared we thought we were, we had no idea what we were doing until we were inside that place.
Yeah, so I'm like running back and forth from command, which was like in the central part of the building, running back and forth, trying to check connections. And that was like one of the things where one of our investigators, eventually after that investigation, told me, Paul, like, you really need to give up some of the stuff that you do and like trust me, like have me like be like your second in command or something like really give me some more stuff to do, because like I got like really pissed that night. I got really pissed and probably embarrassed the hell out of the other 2 guest winners that were there, that won the raffle contest or whatever, however I got them to win that. You know, I couldn't help it.
Yeah, you didn't know. It's not your fault.
I'm just a control freak, but it's not like I can help it, you know. But even during setup, like we were like walking through the administration building. If you watch Shawshank Redemption, that's the other thing. I'm glad you and somebody else got me to watch it because I had not seen that movie before. That's where Shawshank Redemption was filmed. You helped me to get to watch. You're like, oh, you're gonna do Ohio State Reformer Show? You haven't seen Shawshank Redemption yet? You and somebody else told me to watch that.
I don't remember that.
I'm like, and I gave in. I'm like, fine, I'll watch it. Like, what's a fucking Stephen?
Because
it's a Stephen King movie that's not a horror. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch a Stephen King movie that's not
parts
a
of the
horror
set
movie.
are still there.
Oh yeah.
What I thought was even crazier was it Lil Wayne filmed a music video there?
All right.
And one of the cells
a lot
is still like
I think the
Godsmack. No, it was Godsmack. But like one of the cells, I guess Lil Wayne had one of the cells in the prison like painted gold or something, and it had like a disco ball in it, like leopard print shit. And it's still in there. They never cleaned because they're like, well, fuck it, like we're not going to use this again.
There was even a movie I think recently. It was a direct-to-DVD that Sylvester Stallone does. I think they're called Escape Plans or something. The Escape Plan trilogy.
There
There was a third one that they did. It was him.
Escape Plan 3.
They filmed that. I'm talking like 2 years ago, a year or 2 ago. They filmed that at Ohio State also. So, and I actually just found that out. How did I find it out? Because I watched Shawshank.
Yeah.
I watched Shawshank last
So
week.
parts of the set are still there.
I have since watched Shawshank at least. I try to watch it at least twice a year because now it is my number one favorite film.
It's a fucking
I'm
great movie.
so glad I got to watch that before we actually stepped foot into Ohio State because it made seeing a lot of the stuff once we were there like a lot. I'm getting chills just seeing some of the stuff from Shawshank there.
You don't even get the sense of scale of Ohio State
Oh my
in
God.
that movie.
No.
Like once
You
you're
don't.
there, and that's the
Well,
thing
here's
too.
here's the thing. You know why you don't? It's because the actual prison part of it wasn't filmed.
Wasn't filmed there, right?
Because they still had inmates there while they filmed it.
There were still sections. There were sections.
They
There were
filmed it-
parts of the movie.
They filmed
that
it
were
in the
filmed
administration building,
there. Right.
and they filmed it in the backyard, and the library, and actually where Brooks hung himself after he was.
Well, yeah, because the beam is still there. And
Right.
It says Brooks,
That's actually
Brooks
they
was
actually
here.
filmed that inside Ohio State as well, the administration part of it. They still have that room.
The outside shots were from Ohio State, though. Also,
Yes.
With, the aerial
The
shots.
only thing that wasn't filmed, as far as
The actual
the prison goes, was the actual prison. The
prison
cells.
area, the cell
That
area,
was a
the
set
cell
that was
blocks.
built in a warehouse in Ohio.
I lost it good.
Anyway, I'm trying to belch. There it is.
That doesn't count. It doesn't count. Nope, that doesn't count. Sounds like you're gonna throw up. That doesn't count.
So anyway, so I'm saying I was grateful that I got to watch that before we went because it has become my number one favorite film of all time. I used to be really good at quoting The Crow, which was my previous number one movie. The Crow was my number one.
You know, it's still kind of cool. It's still kind of good, especially with all the shit attached to it, the stigma. But whatever.
I still fucking love The Crow. Yeah. So during setup, we were in the administration building, and we got like a lights on walkthrough, right? That lasted like an hour or something when we got there, and then between that, it was basically at that point I was like, okay, they let us set up, take as much time as we needed to set up, and then when we told them, okay, turn off the lights, that was it, and then we went until like 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was. Yeah. But during setup, like everybody's walking all over the place, and we got the 2 ways, and I'm making sure everything's set up all over. And we were walking. It was you, I think you, me, and the other Mike that I was talking about, not Michael, the guy that we really love. We were walking. I swear it was you, me, and Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong. We were walking through the administration building, and I was in front of you two. We were going back to command in the center of the building, and I approached some stairs that were going up, and the stairs were like windy. And I said, "What the hell?" There was somebody like staring at, like somebody that was like looking over or something. Do you remember this? Were you part of it, or maybe you weren't there? Maybe it was just me and Mike. I don't remember, but somebody was with me. I thought there was 2 people.
There was
with me.
so much shit going.
This was during setup, though.
I
We
know.
weren't even investigation.
No,
And I
I
saw
know, but there's so much shit going on.
out of the, they say
Dude, the whole OSR is a blur to me because there's so much stuff. It was so much to take in.
it was. They say like oh, I just saw something in the corner of my eye.
Right.
If you look that up in the paranormal world, that's actually like a legit thing. You actually see like, and I'm gonna get butchered this because I've been out of this for so long, but you kind of see like in another dimension out of the corner of your own
It's
eye.
because of.
You don't see the same spectrum.
Isn't it like the outer ring of your the outer ring of like your pupil has like a higher UV
Yeah,
count or
something like that. Something like that. So when somebody says like, "Oh, I think I saw something in the corner of my eye," if you saw that, most likely you probably just saw a ghost, because that's what that actually means.
Yeah.
So I'm walking straight through this hallway in the administration building. In administration, I mean like if you watch Shawshank, I'm talking about like the warden's office, with the stairs where Andy and the guards and stuff are walking up and down. That's what I'm talking about. And I saw something in the stairway, and I only saw it from the stomach on up or something like that, or maybe it was like the chest on up. And right away, it's like, oh, I just saw something. But even though it happened quickly, like you're still thinking like maybe you stalled too fast, because then I'm like trying to turn around to the people I was with and be like, did you happen to see that? But they didn't, because they were behind me. And right away, like I'm like, I saw somebody was looking right at me, and I start chasing up the stairs after it, because as soon as I saw it and I turned, it moved. It like moved up the stairs. So I'm trying to chase it, and at this point, like we're going up some stairs where we're going to a level that's dark. It's not even lit up
I
anymore.
remember you
I know
You
I
can
came back to
continue,
command
but I
or
vaguely
I radioed it in.
I remember this story.
Yeah,
Now that you're
yeah.
telling it. Go ahead, sorry. It's starting to come back to me.
No. So, like, at that point, like, I saw that with my own eyes, and I'm like, we're going to be in for, like, a fantastic 6 hours.
Just to go back to the whole setup thing, too, is there wasn't any way for us to even prepare for OSR because it's not like we could go do a walkthrough or anything like that. All we had was maybe a vague map that we got online of what the building looked like.
Right.
And then we could only just go from there.
Right.
Fuck. But yeah, I mean, OSR is kind of a blur. I don't remember.
I remember a lot of shit only because I thought it was our greatest success and our greatest failure at the same time.
See, for me, it was like, I felt like nothing happened. Except for bats. There's a shit ton of bats.
Oh, there was bats at Waverly too.
There were bats at Waverly also. Shit ton of bats at Waverly.
But there was a time where we were like all the way on one end of a cell block, and in the center, in between the two cell blocks, you had the bottom floor, and then you had the where we were set up in the command center, which was also like where they do like banquets and food stuff now or whatever, because they've been redoing stuff or remodeling over the years. That's what they use the money for. But like in this bottom section, it's actually where the intake is in Shawshank Redemption, where they intake the prisoners and they have them hosed down and stuff. That's where this is, okay, in the middle between those two cell blocks. All of a sudden, like, we're on one end of like this massive cell block, and we're looking all the way down, right in the middle. And in the middle, you see like this figure walking through, and we're like, "What the fuck is that?" And like, the 2 or 3 or 4 of us that were all together saw it, and we all like ran so hard down this long ass block of cells to try to chase it, but we knew that there was no way we were going to be able. And it looked like it was walking from inside the building out into the back courtyard, and there was nobody. Like, we then split up, and some people went to the courtyard, and some people started to go up some stairs, or there were some bathrooms back there. There was nobody. There was nobody, and we saw it.
There's your white whale.
There was so much stuff that happened. So, but for me, the grand part of it was.
Oh, that wasn't the white whale.
Okay, no. So my white whale is during evidence review, and one of the guest investigators was with me. It was a husband and wife team, if I remember correctly. And I think I got them to split up because that's another thing I was like OCPD about, was keeping a scheduled rotation of certain people working with certain people, kind of split it up and keep the monotony. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So I had one of them with me, and I think it was the wife that might have been with me. We're walking through the administration building, and she was behind me, and she didn't have her flashlight on. I had my headlamp on. All we needed was one. We didn't need two. And but she did have maybe her K2 meter. I had my camcorder and my lamp on, and maybe an EMF reader also. I don't remember. I was always really anal about keeping one hand free.
Sure.
So maybe I didn't have anything in my other hand. But we were walking through this hallway into this room, and my headlamp is on, and our naked eyes didn't see shit, right? And we walk into this room, and we make a left towards another door to go into another hallway. And during evidence review, I'm watching this footage that I'm filming. She's behind me. My lamp is here. And as we enter this doorway, and we start to turn left, there is a shadow of a figure. And it's full. I wouldn't say it's full bodied. It's not like full bodied like I saw in the stairwell during setup. But this was like full bodied from head down to the floor, which is more than I saw in the basement of that house in northern Illinois. Walking in my frame from left to right and through a wall. That was the first time I ever captured anything like that on video. And that, for me, was what I needed to be done with this. And it's on the other channel, but for me, one of the things that I prided myself was, and I didn't care if anybody could see it or hear it or anything as far as EVPs go to, is I didn't want to doctor any of my shit and then put it on the internet or put it on my website. I didn't want to have to clean up EVPs. I didn't want to have to bring out voices. I didn't want to tell people maybe what it said. I didn't want to have to clean up that video footage. I didn't want to have to bring the figure out. I wanted it to be as it is. So maybe you see it, maybe you don't. I watch it back even on YouTube and I still see it.
I still see what you're talking about too to this day. I mean, I've shown it to my girlfriend and she sees it too. She,
And for me, that was it. We still had another investigation that happened after that. I think it was in like Kenosha. We did that, and we had.
I think I left. I think I left before you eventually ended it, right? Or at least I had talked about not coming on a lot of them
Maybe.
Because at that point I was starting college, and I was starting to get busy, and I was like laser focused on what I was doing that.
Yeah.
So I was super busy, and I didn't want to commit to something that I didn't know if
But
I could commit to.
We did that place, another local place, after OSR, and that was like the last one we did. We were told that we could come back, and we were also given. There was another place in. There was 2 places actually in that area that were really hard to get into, and we were told that maybe if we name dropped this lady, because this other investigation we did, she was kind of well known. It was like a business, but it was like a huge mansion. This place was huge, and then it had like a hall attached to it. That if we name dropped her in emails to these other 2 places, one of them was notoriously hard to get into. No other group ever got into it. No other group, as far as I know, still has ever gotten into it. That maybe we could get in. Neither of the 2 places ever called me back, even after name dropping this lady.
Yeah.
So that was really it. The episode aired, and I was like, you know what? After getting what I thought was good, and then after the lies that appeared, some of the lies that happened that appeared on the TV show, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with a group. I'm done with the drama. I'm done with networking with people. I don't want to hear things through the grapevine in this like industry, if you want to call it that. I'm done competing with people. I never wanted to be a competition, but other people wanted to be a competition. And there's some other things with this other group that's still supposedly around to this day, in the area, that they ended up doing repeat business, but they also got big because I think they got big because they took on we'll call it a case. They took on a case where I saw lies in. We were first going to take on this case. We were told that this business, that if we did an investigation of this business, that even if we didn't find anything, we should make up that we found something. And I'm like, fuck you. That's not what we're about. So this other group stepped in and took it on.
Like, fuck yeah, man, we saw a ghost pissing in the corner.
And ever since then, they started doing kind of like some places around town that weren't really easy to get into. Ever since they had that name of this business behind them. And to this day, they're kind of like still around. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have some animosity. Only because I feel like they sold out. This other group sold out. To be honest with you, so at the group, I broke the group up. And everybody went their separate ways. People stopped talking to me. Whatever. Some people still did, like Michael, who wasn't officially in our group. He was in another group, but he was like the only one I still had communication with, really, on a more regular basis. And then I went independent, where I'm like, you know what? I still kind of want to do this, but I don't want people behind me. I don't want the drama. If somebody calls me, I'm just going to go out with some simple, like a camera and an EMF reader, and that's it. It's just going to be me. And if I needed help, I'll call Michael, or I'll call Keith, or something like that. And I got some phone calls. There's some places I went to by myself. But it got to the point where I'm like, even like I was so done with it. Like, I would get phone calls, and then I would like tell the guy who ran the first group, I'm like, hey, I got this phone call. Do you want it? And then he'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. But it turns out like he wasn't even doing that shit anymore either. So I don't know what even happened with that stuff. And I had nobody else to forward it to because groups were starting to close up shop left and right.
The whole paranormal craze was falling off.
I still, even last year,
I think people
up through last year, and I'm talking about I deleted my independent website. I don't know how, but even a year ago, I was still getting phone calls like, yeah, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm located at blah, 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 and I've got like this demon portal hole in my backyard. Yeah. And I'm like, and I'm listening to these voicemails, and I'm like, how did you even find me?
Right.
Like, where are you getting my information from? And I would have called them back. I'm
So
sorry.
you were out there. You were doing, when we were a group, you were doing all that work to get our name out there.
Right. But,
so who knows what fucking corners of the world you fucking access.
and like I said, there's a lot of our stuff that's floating around, archived on other websites, and maybe some people, but like you would have to search like Ghost Hunters Milwaukee, and you would assume you would get that one group I'm talking about that's still around now, that's been doing repeat business, who hasn't, last I checked, they hadn't done a new investigation in like a year, and they were like massive, like they had like a lot of people working for them, and I'm like, because even after I was done with the independent thing, I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to be independent anymore. I'm like, maybe there's some groups out there that I can still join. Maybe like I can go back to being the guy at the bottom or something. And so I started like, I think it was, because I did try to get our group back together for an anniversary thing, but like I said earlier, but I was sick, I needed surgery, my head wasn't right, but that got nixed because honestly, when after the first time we met and I said, okay, we're going to meet again, but then that meeting got pushed off because of my illness.
Oh, and I mean some personal shit for me too.
But
that would have been super awkward.
But when I was messaging people online saying like, this is what's going on, this needs to be put on hold, nobody said like, oh, I hope you get better, or oh my God, what's really going on? Did you find it? Like nobody said shit. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about other people in the group.
Yeah, I know.
Plus, there was one other person that I invited back into the fold. That was one of the early drama people in our group. And even though it wasn't the same person associated with her, she was going to bring somebody else into this fold that I did not expect to be brought into the fold. But I was like, you know what? It's a one-time thing.
She did that the first time.
And that's why she got angry and quit. So I'm like, but you know, I'm going to put the pettiness aside. It's a one-time thing. If this guy that I don't know comes along, he comes along, and we're done with it.
It was supposed to be the All-Stars.
Right.
It was the All-Star group going in for one last investigation.
It just didn't seem like anybody fucking... After the first time we met, it didn't seem like anybody cared, really. To me. Aside from you, it didn't seem like anybody cared. Anybody wanted an update, wanted to know what was going on. So I'm like, fuck it. We're not getting back together. I'm not about this drama.
It would have been the same thing. It would have been the same thing. And then especially the personal stuff that happened with me, it would have been super fucking awkward. Nothing would have went well.
Right.
Like, no matter what.
So yeah, I still kept up with my independent thing and still got phone calls, even though I ignored them. Even though I was like reachable. So they got to the point where like, okay, I'm ignoring them because I so want to disassociate myself from this professionally that maybe I should just delete my website and get all my evidence offline except for what's on YouTube from my previous group, and just call it a career, you know. But OSR still nags me. Like, even though like I said, it was to me it was our greatest failure and our greatest success, at least for me. It's the failure part. It makes me want to like go back there.
I've always wanted to go. There's so many stories that we haven't even touched on. And I know I feel like it's opposite. I feel like you feel the opposite of me as I did. Like, I felt like Waverly Hills.
Ohio State Reformatory.
Right.
In case I didn't say that before. OSR.
Like, Waverly Hills was fucking great for me. And I feel like it might have been the opposite for you. Whereas I feel like OSR was just total dog shit for me. For you, it was great.
Every time I think about Waverly Hills, I think about the number one, the body shoot, which was fantastic.
Oh,
Nothing happened in the
man.
body shoot. It was just the fact that it was a body shoot was freaking great. Okay?
No, we had that EVP, man.
We did?
Yeah.
See, I don't even remember that.
Really?
I don't remember
I don't.
that.
We're short on time. We can't go into that.
The bats. I have a fear of bats. I don't like bats. We had bats. If there was bats, I would not move into another room.
And
where there
there's
was
the
bats.
fucking.
But the third thing I remember is one of our group members who now lives in California, who's been in California for years now. It might be on YouTube as a blooper, even though you can't really see it because it happens kind of far away.
Yeah.
There was some bats in a room, and I would not go through the room. So I stayed back and I filmed everybody crossing this room that ended up outside. Like you go through like a doorway and you're kind of like,
It's like a
outside, like on a balcony.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't see this drop. And he's walking, and all of a sudden he just, boom, goes down. Right? And I thought it was the funniest fucking thing. And you can't really see, I swear to
Because
God.
everybody's so serious.
Right. And and it's because everybody was ducking. I
we
remember
saw
everybody was ducking to
We
go
saw
under the bats.
Yeah.
And he was like the last one to go, and all of a sudden he crosses the room, and there's like the drop into the balcony, and he just goes down.
Because it was almost like there used to be windows, like giant windows, but the window
Right.
because window pane wasn't there
They had
anymore.
TB patients in this place, and they would wheel the beds. You had the outskirts.
So you kind of
of
had
this building,
You kind of had
and
to
then on the
step over
inside-
the window.
and then
to
on
get
the
outside.
inside of these hallways, you would have the rooms where the patients were, and they would take the beds out of the rooms and wheel them through, like what I'm talking about, this larger room where the bats were.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they would wheel them through this room over to the windows, and that's where they would put them so they were outside and they could breathe that air.
Right.
So they had all these large windows that were basically open, and some had doorways, and they would just drop down, and they all went through, and everybody was fine. Everybody went through fine, but this guy, I almost just said his name just now, he didn't quite get it, and he just missed that lip and went straight down.
But yeah, I mean, nothing for me.
And I was really tired. That was the only investigation. That was like the longest investigation we had.
Yeah.
It lasted from, we were there when
I
the sun was still out, and by the time we were done, the sun was coming up.
The drive up to the hospital. I don't know what I expected out of Waverly Hills, but I remember driving up to the hospital. You're driving up a hill. You're driving through these woods, and there's nothing. You see
Right.
nothing but trees,
Right.
and then you get to a gate. They open up the gate. The owners open up the gate for you, and you are now on the hospital grounds. And all of a sudden, yes, it's
Right.
huge, and there's
Right.
just this massive,
It's,
fucking abandoned building.
as far as length goes, it's
Holy shit!
as far as length goes, it's pretty much up there with OSR. It's just not as as tall.
I remember. Yeah, it's only like 4 or 5 floors or something. Like
It
that.
had 4 floors, whereas OSR had like 5 cell block floors, plus it had a basement.
Yeah. I just remember sitting in the back seat of that fucking car, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
It was the biggest one biggest
Up to
investigation
that
we had.
point, yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I can do
That was
this.
before OSR.
And
I was so tired by the time the sun was coming up. I was so
yeah,
tired.
there's so much that we haven't even touched on. There's so much shit that we did.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about the door. We said we were going to talk about the door. We didn't talk about the door.
Talk about the door?
We didn't talk about the door.
What door? See, I already
The-
forgot.
The door
That's
in
how bad
Indiana.
my memory is.
In Indiana.
The door in Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The heavy
As
ass
far as
door.
moving objects
Moving
goes,
objects, yeah.
there was one we became really good. Had a really good partnership with. I'll say it because I still like the guy and I still loved going down there. His name was Kevin, and he was the museum director down in Valparaiso.
Valparaiso, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And at one time they had one museum, and then eventually they bought a cop shop right up the block, and they turned that into like a second museum. And somebody turned us on to that, and maybe it might have been Michael, might have been somebody else. I can't remember who told us about Valparaiso. Kevin Posar, I think was his name. I might be butchering his last name, but Posar sounds familiar. And it got to the point where we went there once, and then we went there again, and then we went there a third time. And it was like great. Like Kevin was great, and the money that we paid, because some of these investigations we had to pay money, right? Now, keep in mind, a lot of these places would use the money towards restorations, like OSR in Waverly and Villisca X Murder House or whatever. And the museum, it's like donating to any museum. It's like paying an admission to a museum. Only you're getting to hunt ghosts to do it.
Right.
You know, and I had no problem with stuff like that. Nobody did. No. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it.
Right. Yeah.
And might have been the second time we were there. I don't know, man, because we were there like
we were there.
Time. We were there
yeah,
like
we were there a lot. It was one of our favorite places.
Yes. And we were in this I think it was a room that had models set up. In the middle of the room, like different models.
Kind of looked like somebody was playing like a giant game of Risk.
And then there was a door, and then there was like this little door in a wall. You open up this little door in a wall, and it kind of went into a records room.
Yep.
Where the records were kept, because it used to be a prison as well.
Yeah.
It was an old prison.
This place is old.
Right. So you had the police station, and then you had an old prison. And the old prison was first turned into a museum, and then the old police station eventually was turned into a secondary museum. So you still had like cells and everything in this place, including a records room. So we're on the second floor in this records room, or not in the records room, but adjacent to the records room.
Yeah.
And some of us were filming, and we had the door wide open, like the door was all the way up against.
And these are heavy, like real mahogany, 8-foot tall doors. Like they're huge.
Yes. And we're all just like minding our own business, filming in front of us, talking, doing whatever. And all of a sudden, turn around, and the door behind us is completely fucking closed.
100%. Flush. And we didn't even hear it.
We didn't hear it, which meant, and we tried to recreate it. Like, okay, so like, how much force can we put on this door to make it close? How much force can we put on this door for it to make a sound? We got to the point where we assumed
even tap it, and it wouldn't move.
We assumed that it must have moved so fucking slowly while our backs were turned to it, you know?
Dude. Just still.
And so we were like, what the fuck? And we're looking at the door, and we tried to debunk it, and we couldn't. There was no fucking way. And so we tried so hard to debunk it to see, you know, like how it could close like that. You know what I'm saying? On its own.
Kevin wasn't on the property, was he?
Kevin was on the property.
Was he?
One of the things,
the place was so old, though, you would have heard
Kevin was always on the property at all times. He had his own office. So after we were done trying to debunk that, we were like, there's no way this happened on its own. There's no way that wind closed, you know, forced it to close. I mean, there was no windows open anywhere in the building.
No.
I mean, we really.
I feel like if it was super windy, you would have heard it.
And I don't know if you went with us, but we did. After we walked out of that room, we knocked on Kevin's office door, and we said, "Kevin, did you just come out in the last 5 minutes?" He's like, "No," and I believed him because that's what I'm saying. This is why I think this was our second time there, because the first time we were there, we never saw him at all. You know. There you go. So I believe when he said no, I believed him. I think we would have been able to hear him. I think there was sense that somebody was
behind us.
We were
upstairs.
Yeah, so
we were upstairs.
So I'm like,
we would have heard him walking.
And he's like, "Why are you asking?" And I'm like, "Because we were just in whatever room we said we were in." And I said, "Our backs were turned, and we were filming everything else in this room. But while our backs were turned, this big ass fucking door just closed completely on its own."
Yeah.
From being wide open, and you couldn't like I said, you couldn't take it and just push it like that and have it completely go. It would just go a little bit and stop.
This was a heavy door.
Yeah,
it was heavy. It was like real fucking wood. It was huge. It's a huge door.
So comparing objects, like I heard that razor blade in northern Illinois fall. I heard that. That's one thing. And then you got the door, but it's just like 1 minute, you know the door's open, and then you're minding your own business, and the next minute you turn around, the door's closed, and it's like, but you didn't hear it, you didn't feel it, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
It happened.
It just happened.
And it was fucking fantastic, but it's like, you didn't know it was happening when it happened. Like when I heard the razor blade fall off the counter or wherever it was, you know?
You would think you would even hear the door click?
It didn't even creak. It was like a Holy crap! Are you finished?
Yeah, fuck yeah, man.
Nothing.
I thought this was I was on potation rotation, not fucking.
Wow. We're wrapping up, which is
Yeah.
fine. So, I mean, do I itch? Yeah, I itch. Like I said, I looked up to
There's
see.
a powder for that. You can get that.
And there's people that still ask me to this day, like when they find out, they still ask me, and I'm like, which is why I'm like, I really don't. There's part of me that doesn't want to talk about it anymore. I'm done talking about it. I'm exhausted talking about it, which is why I wanted to get this out of the way and just get it done now, because eventually, if this does explode, and I'm not talking about explode I'm gonna name drop like fucking Rhett and Link and the
Donkey.
Donkey or from our home state here.
Yeah.
Donkey. All right. You know, I'm not talking about those levels exploding enough where it gets to the point where like maybe some people do some research on who Paul from Quotation Rotation is in Milwaukee, and they find like some paranormal stuff linked up, because that's the only other thing that you might find aside from my Twitch stuff. I'm just get this out of the way now, because I'm kind of done talking about it.
I don't mind reminiscing about it.
All right, so let's quickly. So I think we're done. I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
So that's my story for like at least a solid 5.5 years. So you got this podcast.
I guess I gotta plug that. This is the first time I've ever plugged this.
I talked about it during my TurboGrafx 16 review just a little bit.
I started a show. It's a podcast, Main Quest podcast. Basically, every Monday I go through a different game every week, and it's basically just chronically. Chronically,
You're smoking the blunt and being like, I'm playing this a fucking bomb today, bitch.
You ever play Bomberman? But every week, basically, is just it's a different game, and I'm chronologically going through every game that I've played my entire life in this podcast every week, and so you can get that on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, whatever you listen to podcasts on.
iTunes Radio?
No, not yet.
Oh, fuck, that's number one for
I
podcasting.
gotta stop talking.
So he ain't there yet.
iTunes, they're not working with me yet. So otherwise, you can email me at mainquestpod. Yeah, fuck, I don't know my fucking socials, man. Main_quest_pod for Instagram. That's where I'm most active. Otherwise, at mainquestpod on Twitter.
Make sure you add the underscores, or else you're screwed.
Yeah, you're fucked. Otherwise, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know who you're trying to DM. It isn't me. It isn't me. Alright. That's it. That's the first time I had to do that. It's fucking weird.
Well, only like 3 people right now are gonna probably
That's
see
fine.
this.
Yeah.
In 2 years.
They'll get it in a couple. Yeah, right.
Yeah. In 2 years, you'll be like way beyond all that shit.
I'll have it memorized.
Yeah.
Down pat.
All right. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Quotation Rotation. We each went through. This came in a 4-pack. I was hoping that the 4-pack would last me for a while, but I guess we're done with that. So
My bad.
put the kibosh on it, and this was supposed to be for something else, which was never used. That's fine. So join me next time. Whatever was in the rotation, I have no idea what the fuck is going to be in the rotation. I never do. It's basically whatever I grab out of the fridge. Like I said last time, it could be some wine. I could be drinking some shit straight out of the bottle. It could be some more beer. I don't know. But until then, I hope you all hang in there, and I'll see you next time.